Every week, I open a file, a real story, real money, real people who lost everything. Today's file is one of the most insane things I have ever read. Welcome to Billion Dollar Crimes. A woman in Connecticut gets a text message from a stranger. Wrong number. Simple. She almost doesn't reply, but she does. And over the next few weeks, this stranger becomes her closest friend. Charming, smart, warm. He talks to her every single day. Then one day, he tells her about an investment opportunity. Crypto. He says he's been making huge returns. He offers to show her. She puts in $40,000. She watches her account grow. She puts in more, then more again. 9 months later, she has lost close to $1 million. And the man she thought was her friend, he never existed. What I find absolutely terrifying about this story is, this is not rare. This is not one unlucky person. This is happening right now to hundreds of thousands of people in every country, on every continent. And the people running it have stolen more than $75 billion, and most of them have never been touched. This is the story of the most sophisticated financial crime operation in the world, and it has a name: pig butchering. To understand pig butchering, you first need to understand that this is not a scam. It is an industry. It has offices, managers, HR departments, training manuals, shift schedules, performance targets. And it started, quietly, in China, around 2016. Chinese criminal networks had already been running online gambling operations across Southeast Asia. But in 2019, Cambodia banned those online casinos. So the gangs needed a new product. They found one, and it was far more profitable. They took the same infrastructure, the compounds, the workers, the servers, and they pivoted to fake investment fraud, crypto, romance, trust. The name comes from farming. The idea is simple and brutal. You fatten a pig slowly before you slaughter it. You build trust with the victim over weeks or months. You make them feel safe. You make them invest small amounts, then bigger amounts, then everything they have. And then, you vanish. By 2020, the COVID pandemic had supercharged everything. The world was stuck at home. People were lonely. People were anxious about money. They were spending more time online than ever before. The scammers knew exactly how to reach them. But here is where this story takes a turn that most people never expect. The people sending those messages were not sitting comfortably in some penthouse laughing at victims. Many of them were prisoners themselves. Let me show you how this works from both sides. Because there are two sets of victims in this story. Side 1, the people getting scammed. It starts with a message, a wrong number text on WhatsApp, a connection request on LinkedIn, a match on a dating app. Something completely normal. The scammer, or the person playing the scammer, has a fake identity built over weeks. Gorgeous photos, a believable backstory. Usually they claim to be a successful professional, a doctor, a business owner, an investor living in Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai. And they talk, every day, for weeks. They are warm. They are interested in you. They remember things you said. They check in on you when you're sick. What I find insane about this is how calculated it is. There's a name for this phase, the hunting and raising stage. Just like with a farm animal, you feed the pig, you make it comfortable, you make it trust you. Then, and only then, comes the investment conversation. It's casual. They mention they made great returns last week on a crypto platform. They share a screenshot. You ask about it. They offer to show you. You put in a small amount, say $500, and you watch it grow. The platform looks completely real. Charts, prices, your balance going up. You put in more. You tell a friend. Maybe you put in your savings. Maybe you take out a loan. The FBI found people who were in the process of selling their homes, liquidating their retirement accounts, borrowing from family. And then one day, you try to withdraw. And the platform tells you there's a tax, or a fee, or your account is under review. You pay the fee. They ask for more. The account disappears. The person disappears. Everything is gone. The average victim loses $177,000. $177,000. Some lose millions. But now, let me show you side 2, because this is where the story gets even darker. The person who sent you those messages, who spent weeks building your trust, who knew your pet's name and your childhood memories, there is a real chance they were locked in a room somewhere in Cambodia or Myanmar, working 12 to 16 hours a day, with armed guards outside. Here's how it happens. A young man in Vietnam sees a job posting on Facebook. Good salary, customer service role, modern office, Thailand or Cambodia. He applies. He gets the job. He travels to the border, and then his passport is taken. His phone is replaced. He is told his real job is to scam people online, and if he doesn't meet his daily quota, he gets beaten. Amnesty International interviewed survivors. One 18-year-old girl said she was promised an administrative job. She arrived at night, crossed a river, found herself in a compound with armed guards. When she tried to escape, her boss hit the soles of her feet with a metal pole. The United Nations estimates that over 300,000 people are currently being held in these compounds across Southeast Asia. 300,000 people, living in modern-day slavery, being used as weapons against ordinary people around the world. And the money? It flows through a financial system so sophisticated, it took years for governments to even map it. For years, this operation was basically invisible. The victims were ashamed. Many never reported it. The scammers were hiding in countries where local governments were either powerless or on the payroll. But a few things started to crack it open. First, the scale became undeniable. By 2024, Americans alone were losing nearly $10 billion a year to investment fraud. The FBI's complaint center was getting 150,000 reports. These were not small numbers anymore. Second, a Kansas bank collapsed. And the reason was extraordinary. The CEO of Heartland Tri-State Bank, a man named Shan Haines, had himself become a victim of a pig butchering scam. And to recover his losses, he started secretly transferring his bank customers' money into the scam. $47 million from a small community bank in Kansas. The bank failed. Haines was sentenced to 24 years in prison. He was both the criminal and the victim. What I find completely unbelievable about this is a bank CEO, someone who should know better than anyone how fraud works, and they still got him. Third, in early 2025, a famous Chinese actor named Wang Xing went missing. He had been lured to Thailand under the pretense of an audition. He was abducted, taken to Myanmar, forced into a scam compound. It went viral. Millions of people in China saw it. And suddenly, governments could no longer ignore what was happening. The crackdown started. China and Myanmar launched a joint operation. Over 57,000 people were arrested. Thousands of workers were freed. In October 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed an indictment against Chen Zhi, the founder of the Prince Group in Cambodia, accusing him of running at least 10 scam compounds. The DOJ seized $15 billion in Bitcoin, the largest forfeiture in American legal history. $15 billion seized in a single case, and that number barely scratched the surface. The FBI launched something called Operation Level Up in January 2024. Agents started proactively contacting victims, people who were still being scammed, who had no idea what was happening to them. They notified over 8,000 people. 77% of those people had no idea they were being scammed when the FBI called. They were still transferring money. They were about to sell their house. One elderly man was surviving on disability payments and had already given the scammers $1,200 and was planning to give more from his food money. 80 victims from that operation were referred for suicide intervention. 80 people who lost so much: money, trust, a relationship they thought was real, that they didn't want to go on. Think about what that means. This isn't just financial crime. This is a machine that is designed to destroy people emotionally. For the victims inside the compounds, the story is just as painful. After the 2025 crackdowns, thousands of workers were freed from Cambodia. Over 2,700 Indonesian workers needed embassy support just to get home. Workers from India, Vietnam, Ethiopia, Kenya, from all over the world were crossing borders in broken shoes with nothing. Many of them had gone looking for a better life. They found a nightmare. And the scam centers? When authorities raid one and shut it down, the operation moves to a different border, a different country, a different compound. Because the industry generates an estimated $50 to $75 billion a year, in some regions, it accounts for up to 60% of the local economy. There are people in governments who do not want it to stop. In 2025, this operation was linked to a war. Tensions between Thailand and Cambodia escalated so much over border scam compounds that it became a diplomatic incident, not just a crime story anymore, a geopolitical crisis. $75 billion, 300,000 prisoners, hundreds of thousands of victims worldwide, and it is still growing. Okay, I need to be honest with you for a second. When I first read about this, I thought, this is something that happens to people who are not paying attention, people who are naive, people who should know better. But the more I read, the more uncomfortable I got. A bank CEO, a nurse in Illinois, a retired teacher in North Carolina, a widower who just wanted connection. These are not stupid people. These are people who were targeted by organizations with more resources, more psychology, more patience than any of us give credit for. The scam compounds have trainers who study emotional manipulation. They know which words make you feel safe. They know when to push and when to wait. They have scripts. They run performance reviews on their workers. These are not amateur criminals. They are running a multinational corporation, and their product is human vulnerability. What I find most disturbing is the double layer of victimhood in this story. The person who lost $1 million is a victim, but so is the 22-year-old who got trafficked across a border and was forced to be the person sending those messages. Both of their lives were destroyed by the same organization. So, what can you actually do? 1. If someone contacts you out of nowhere and eventually brings up investing, that is your signal. Walk away. No real investment opportunity starts with a wrong number text. 2. Never invest through a platform someone else introduced you to online. Only use regulated exchanges. Check them on the SEC website at investor.gov before you put in a single dollar. 3. If someone tells you not to tell anyone about the investment, that is the biggest red flag that exists. Legitimate investments do not require secrecy. 4. If you think you or someone you know might already be in one of these scams, stop. Report immediately to the FBI at ic3.gov. Do not pay any fees to unlock your account. That is part of the scam. And 5. If you are someone who works inside one of these compounds right now, and you find a way to reach the outside world, there are organizations that help. The IJM, the Freedom Fund. You are not alone. $75 billion stolen. 300,000 people enslaved. And it started with a text message. The crime that gets you is rarely the one you see coming. If this story shocked you, subscribe, because I put out a new file every Tuesday. Real stories, real money, real crime. And I want to know what you think. The person on the other end of the screen, the one sending the messages, are they a criminal? Or are they a victim? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one.